LGB. 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 LGB.
They say LGB everywhere I go. LGB. What it means, I don't know. LGB. Whatever it is. LGB. Kamala, help me, please. Please.
Alrighty then.
Thank you. LGB.
That's let's go, Brandon, right?
LGB. This means let's go, Brandon. Go. LGB.
Sounds like let's go, Brandon, I guess.
LGB. All right. Let's go, Brandon.
I am Cornholio.
Chant LGB. Right wing and left wing. LGB. Go, you know the thing. LGB. If you don't sing, get back. LGB. And you ain't black. LGB. Let's go, Brandon. LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
FJB. Let's go, Brandon.
I'm Joe Biden, and I
Forgot
this message.
Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Irvine, California, this January 11th, 2024 at 1:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am on the beautiful west coast of the United States. The weather is really, really quite good. And that's nice because Houston is going to be, freezing its balls off pretty soon. So very much enjoying and soaking up the California mildness right before GART 3, Irvine, California, at the lovely Marriott Spectrum. We have got the core fans here on Thursday night for the VIP dinner. And then tomorrow, everybody else shows up. I've already had the pleasure of saying hello to, a lot of people. So some of you will know Jay Triet, been hanging out with Jay Triet today. Also, Becker, we've been hanging out with Brian Fredo, Melanie, Tracy Garcia. I'm not going to get everybody, of course, because we've been hanging out with a lot of people. I saw Jay Coelho. JC Bird. So we're having a great old time down here. Beth Schweer, hung out with her too. Hung out with tons of you. And if I forgot to mention your name, I apologize. So this room is echoey as hell. And I do the audio for Brian Cates and for Seth Keschel now. And I'm not going to submit audio to them from this room. That's not happening. It's just shit. And Erik Carlson, whom I will be portraying today, I'm not super proud of the audio acoustics you're going to be receiving for your wonderful article today, but I'm going to do it anyway because, there needs to be an epic thread in the world. It's not Friday, and I skipped yesterday. I feel kind of bad about that. But anyway, thank you for being here for this live show. Really appreciate it when you do that. Do me a favor, guys. There's 103 of you watching right now, so this is a sparsely attended stream. If you could help me out, just press that thumbs up button. And then if you could, because I am somehow crazy suppressed on Rumble. I am spot welded to 33,000 followers on Rumble. Do me a favor, just hit the follow button. We're going to figure out a way to push that number up one way or the other. But anyway, what do you say we talk about Angel Paste? That's right. Angelpaste.com. Use promo code Shapiro to pry $1 from my grasping hands. I don't actually have my own personal Angel Paste here. It's pretty ridiculous. But what I do have is an overnight bag full of 25 wrapped bottles of Angel Paste with a little thank you sticker on them. There's an unscented Angel Paste in this. No vanilla Angel Paste here at GART. Whatever remains of the vanilla Angel Paste will be gone by the time we get done with the Devolution Power Hour on Saturday. I'm 99% certain. Yeah, it's going to be gone. There's no way the vanilla Angel Paste is going to last throughout the week. So get yours now. It will be the last vanilla Angel Paste that we sell until January 2025. So just remember that. It's magnificent. In addition to the amazing scent, the amazing scent has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So Angel Paste, use promo code Shapiro to pry $1 from my grasping hands. 3 or more bottles, you get free shipping. Angel Paste, your skin will drink it up. All right, so let's go ahead and just just go ahead and knock it out. So it's going to be a really short reading epic threads. There's a small part of me that is considering taking another nap. I've been sleeping a lot since I got here, and it feels fantastic. The air is really dry out in this air. I'd say it's in the 50s. The air is dry. The sun is out. There's not a cloud in the sky. You could just walk around in the 50s, at high 50s and low 60s. I mean, we pretty much don't get weather like this in Texas. I have to really just go ahead and come to terms with that. All right. Here we go. From ericc.substack.com. American inner cities versus slums in India. Why such a difference? By Erik Carlson. Before delving into the subject matter, let me first ask the question. What is your biggest pet peeve, the thing that drives you the craziest, besides pure evil, of course? For me, it's stupidity, and I don't mean ignorance, but I suppose the unwillingness to learn or the lack of curiosity about the world around us might be a close second for me. I don't mean being brainwashed either. Being conditioned or manipulated through propaganda may seem like stupidity, but there are some pretty smart people who would qualify as being brainwashed, and I can't claim to have never been manipulated. I once believed everything the media and history books taught us. Imagine having a history degree. It might be more accurate to call it a fake history degree. Not that it is worthless or useless. I suppose a history degree allows one to have a better understanding of the number of lies we've been told or how long we've been told them, assuming one wakes up to the fact that we've been lied to about everything since the day we were born, of course. And education in history would allow one to understand how much he truly needed to relearn. I realize that the things that should annoy me the most are things like rudeness or unpleasantness. These are actions people can control completely. Stupidity isn't necessarily something that everyone has complete control over. While everyone can learn more, not everyone is equal in their ability to process information, yet stupidity is the thing that annoys me the most. A week ago, I showed up to my office at 7:30 a.m. to find a UPS note on the floor saying they tried to deliver a package the evening before. It said deliveries could arrive as late as 9 p.m. I thought to myself, why would you try to make a delivery after business hours to an obvious office in an office building? Having been through this before, which resulted in 3 delivery attempts, followed by me eventually having to drive to a UPS warehouse 25 minutes away to pick up the package, I hoped to avoid a repeat of the situation. After the first failed evening delivery attempt to my office, again in an obvious office building, I thought I would be proactive and go on UPS.com to schedule them to deliver the package to a UPS store 3 blocks from my office. It seems this would make their job easier. They don't have to make 3 unsuccessful attempts. I'm the one being inconvenienced by having to walk to the UPS store. On the site, it said it would cost $7.99 to make the change. Mind you, I have no idea what the package is. It could be a useless packet from a company that's trying to recruit me to come work for them. So I looked to see if I could have it sent to my house, $11.99. Because I didn't know what the package is, I didn't proceed with making any delivery changes. The next morning, I arrived at work to be greeted by another note on my office door from a second attempt made the prior evening. What part of if I wasn't in the office after hours on a Tuesday night would lead one to think I would be in the office after hours on a Wednesday night? After the second failed attempt, I wrote my office hours on the UPS note and highlighted it. Luckily, the guy showed up the next day during office hours to deliver the package. Why does the AI that routes UPS deliveries have them making delivery attempts after business hours to office buildings? I'm sure the route is the most efficient route when it comes to mileage. But if the driver makes 3 attempts and the package isn't delivered, how is that more efficient? Wouldn't it be more efficient to greatly increase the likelihood that a package would be delivered on the first attempt during normal business hours? And wouldn't that make the customer more satisfied with their service? At the very least, schedule a different time from the previous failed attempt. The driver even told me if I hadn't put my business hours on the note, he wouldn't have delivered the package when he did. In other words, during business hours. I don't necessarily blame him. I have no idea how much flexibility he's allowed, but the system itself is just beyond stupid. On to the subject in the title. This month, a new travel series starring James May from Top Gear and the Grand Tour came to Amazon Prime. It's a 3-part series involving James May traveling across India. In Mumbai, he visited its famous slum known as Dharavi. Dharavi is about 1 square mile that has 800,000 people living in it. According to James May, it is 50 times more densely populated than London, England. Only 1/3 of the buildings in this slum have access to fresh waters, and in many cases, up to 10 people live in a room. With extreme poverty everywhere in Dharavi, buildings crumbling, with sides of buildings open and exposed to the elements, and to garbage piled in heaps on the streets. Strangely, the crime rate is very low, and the education system is excellent. In this area that looks like a war zone, you discover the residents are generally happy to be there. They love the community. While it is difficult to impossible to make what we consider a comfortable life, they all seem to work. They hustle to get by, and again, they seem to have a good attitude about life. They don't blame anyone for their misfortunes. They are appreciative of what they have. They put food on the table, and from the people that May interacted with, they didn't complain about the lives they had. Why so different from America? In the US, inner cities are havens for drugs and crime. Despair and hopelessness are the norm and not the exception. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, broken families, violence, theft, assault. No one wants to live in the slums of America. In many cases, people fear for their lives. Some rely on government assistance, while many blame society for their predicaments. While many work hard to survive, to put food on the table, to feed their families, some live off the welfare system, and some live off a disability check they receive every month from a back injury that allegedly occurred 20 years ago. Some don't even look for a job. Some give up all hope at having a better life. Many reading this might rightly say, a lot of these people need to make personal responsibility decisions for their lives and the situations in which they find themselves. This statement sounds all good and reasonable. But what if I told you where the phrase personal responsibility came from? It was created in 1962, not too long before the CIA created the term conspiracy theorist to get people to stop questioning the JFK assassination. If you question the narrative, you are a conspiracy theorist. The term personal responsibility was created by the cigarette industry in 1962. They were coming under heat for cigarettes being unhealthy and addictive. They created the term to push the blame of smoking onto the individual smoker. As a smoker, you need to take personal responsibility for your smoking and your health. The cigarette industry knew exactly how addictive cigarettes are. In fact, they designed them to be more addictive. The cigarette makers deflected the responsibility of smoking from them to the smoker. Smokers believed it was their fault they couldn't stop smoking. Their health issues were solely their responsibility. They can't blame anyone but themselves. The same thing is happening in other industries. The food industry puts added sugar into processed foods, not only to make them taste sweeter, but to make them more addictive. In some cases, you can't even taste the sugar, and the only purpose in adding the sugar is to make the food more addictive. Sugar is addictive. And the food industry fully understands this. It makes for repeat customers. They make processed foods more addictive and blame the consumer for their overconsumption, which leads to obesity and other health issues. The consumer believes they just don't have enough self-control, not understanding a whole industry is intentionally making it more difficult for them to eat in moderation. Why do the residents of the slum in India, Dharavi, seem to live with hope and contentment, while the residents of American inner cities seem to lack hope and blame others for their problems? Systemic racism, sexism. In practicality, India still has a caste system. What is a caste system? A caste system is a class structure that is determined by birth. Loosely, it means that in some societies, the opportunities you have access to depend on the family that you happened to be born into. So maybe it's sexism. Actually, Indian women experience more sexism in the workplace. An Indian woman is less likely than an American woman to be promoted at work over a man. Again, why the difference between nations? I would theorize that in America, there is more government assistance, more manipulation, and more propaganda. In India, there is less government assistance, less manipulation, and less propaganda. It's as simple as that. I think we all understand what government assistance is, but what about my propaganda claim? In America, 30% of children are being raised in single-parent households. In India, that number is 4.5%. That is a seven-fold difference. It doesn't seem having two parents in a household keeps Indians from living in poverty. There are obviously way more Indians living in poverty than Americans. It does appear having two parents in a household changes other things, like hope, contentment, expectations, not to mention crime rates. From fixfamilycourts.com, quote, the strongest predictor of whether a person will end up in prison is that they were raised by a single parent. C.C. Harper and S. McClanahan, quote, father absence and youth incarceration paper presented at the annual meeting of the American Sociological Association, San Francisco, California, 1998. In 1996, 70% of inmates in state juvenile detention centers serving long sentences were raised by single mothers. Wade Horn, Why There Is No Substitute for Parents. The proportion of single-parent households in a community predicts its rate of violent crime and burglary, but the community's poverty level does not. Source, D.A. Smith and G.R. Jarjura, Social Structure and Criminal Victimization, Journal of Research in Crime and Delinquency, 1988. 72% of juvenile murderers and 60% of rapists come from single-mother homes. Chuck Carlson, How Shall We Live? Tyndale House, 2004, page 323. After controlling for single motherhood, the difference between black and white crime rates disappeared. Progressive Policy Institute, 1990, quoted by David Blankenhorn, Fatherless America Confronting Our Most Urgent Social Problem. New York, Harper Perennial, 1996, page 31, end quote. This may seem as if I'm picking on single mothers. I'm not. I'm pointing out the damage done by having fathers who are derelict in their familial responsibilities. Single-parent households have tripled in America since 1965. What happened around 1965? The civil rights movement, as well as a major push in the feminism movement. Am I saying minorities and women shouldn't have equal rights in American society? Absolutely not. Everyone should have equal rights. What I'm saying is that both of these movements were not what they appeared to be. American families have been intentionally destroyed through feminism, and blacks have been intentionally held back and controlled through the civil rights movement, or should I say the fake civil rights movement. war on America. When it was decided that the only way to defeat America was from within, through the infiltration of communists and communism, the plan to divide America began. The communists in America understood they needed to drive a wedge between blacks and whites. The communist sympathizers hoped that if they propagandized racism enough, blacks would turn away from American values and ideals and support communism instead. One MK Ultra technique used in the brainwashing of children is to give a child a puppy. The child quickly learns to love the puppy. After the child starts to love the puppy, an MK Ultra CIA staff member kills the puppy in front of the child. The puppy is given to the child and then violently taken from the child. This breaks the child's mind. The same thing happened to blacks during the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was created and built up to promote a new hope for blacks in America, and then he was killed for all to see. No difference than with the MK Ultra technique, just done on a larger scale. Racism isn't a naturally occurring thing. It needs to be nurtured, manipulated, and propagandized in order to exist, in order to flourish. Hopelessness isn't a naturally occurring thing either. Neither is blackpilling. Racism is a necessary part of division. Hopelessness and a feeling of having no control are necessary to control a society or a group in society. Blackpilling is necessary to extinguish a righteous uprising. If you look at what the civil rights movement and the feminism movements have done to American society, you find, generally speaking, women are less happy, more anxious, more depressed, and more heavily medicated because of it. Families are shells of what they once were. The black family especially has been torn apart, while the prison system has been disproportionately filled with young black men. Again, I ask, why are the slums of India so different from the inner cities in America? Why does there seem to be a lack of crime, a lack of despair, a lack of hopelessness, while education is held in high regard in India? Why do Indian families stay together? It comes from a lack of manipulation and propaganda. It is because there isn't a concerted effort happening to destroy their hope, their expectations, and their families. If you rip families apart and create a welfare system that takes away men's financial responsibility to their children, while leaving the children without a father figure or a father, you get what we have in America today. If the CIA pushes drugs into the inner cities, you get what we have today. If you believe everyone is racist and hates you and you have no chance to succeed in life, you get what we have today. If they don't properly fund the education system in inner cities, you get what we have today. All of this is by design. If they really wanted to fix inner cities in America, they would end the welfare system as it is being currently used and use that money to better the inner city schools. I would argue that racism was starting to dissipate in the 1980s during Reagan's administration because it wasn't being nurtured and pushed by those in control. With lifetime CIA proponent Bush Sr. taking over as POTUS in 1989, all of a sudden gangster rap was being pushed on the American youth. Crime was being promoted, especially to young blacks. In 1993, Bill Clinton, a man Bush Sr. considered to be like a son, became POTUS. Clinton and Senator Biden quickly pushed forward the 1994 crime bill, which filled up the newly privatized prison system with young black males. We seemed to get a bit of a reprieve from the push of racism during Bush Jr.'s 2 terms, probably because focus was elsewhere, like taking away Americans' privacy rights, bailing out banks, and churning out wars. I think there was a major uptick in the racism when Obama took office. Likely the reason he was chosen to be a 2-term POTUS was to reignite the racism narrative as well as the transgender nonsense. Ironically, while having a black president, racism in America rose to new highs. Some reading this may be thinking, but we've come such a long way in regard to racism. Have we? Knowing what we know now, knowing how manipulated everything is, do people really believe racism was inherently more rampant in the middle of the 20th century? Do people believe this racism occurred organically and wasn't being forced on people? No blacks allowed signs in the Deep South, separate drinking fountains, whites only restaurants. If you believe the COVID narrative is completely manipulated and fake, why wouldn't you also believe the same tactics and control went into creating and maintaining racism in the past century? In other words, the racism of the mid-20th century wasn't organic. It was intentionally created. What about affirmative action? Was it to create a level playing field? I would argue it had a dual purpose, and neither were to make things more equal. I believe one purpose was to create more racism. Non-blacks are to believe blacks get special treatment. They are given jobs over people who are more qualified. The other purpose is to make blacks believe they are inferior. They only get jobs because of preferential treatment. The cabal family is truly sick. They manipulate every aspect in society, destroying people's self-worth while creating division. A vicious cycle is created. In the slums of India, where most homes don't have access to fresh drinking water or electricity or internet or any of the amenities Americans take for granted, and where they often sleep 10 people to a room, they are generally more content. They are more hopeful. They are industrious. They are educated. In American inner cities with superior amenities and government assistance, crime is high, substance abuse is high, and attitudes and education are generally worse. In comparing both sides, Indian slums and American inner cities, we discover narratives, propaganda, and psychological conditioning are more influential on shaping attitudes and beliefs than basic needs like food and shelter, or amenities and privacy. The good news is things will change. This control and propaganda will all come to an end. In my opinion, America is the greatest country in the world, and this is after all the manipulative efforts to destroy it. Efforts to control us have been effective, but they can't defeat us. Once the propaganda machines come to a grinding halt, and the people in positions of power and influence are removed, America will start to heal itself. America will be great again. America will be one again, and Americans will be happy again. Nothing can stop what is coming. And that is the latest from Erik Carlson, erikc.substack.com, erikc.substack.com. Send him a Rumble rant, or not a Rumble rant. Send him Substack rants. Yeah. Substack subscriptions. Guys, subscribe for money. It helps. I am going to wrap up the show now because, let's face it, the acoustics in here blow, and I want to keep the shows short if the acoustics are going to be like that. So don't forget to go to angelpaste.com, use promo code Shapiro to pry $1 from my grasping hands. If you get 3 or more bottles, well, then you get free shipping. And shipping isn't cheap. It's like $14. So it knocks off the $14. So get 3 or more bottles and you get free shipping. So check that out, guys. GART's going to be a blast. All of my panels are apparently on Saturday. So Friday, I'm going to be spending just soaking in the wisdom and enjoying the company of my fellow Badlanders. And we're going to have a great old time. So thank you, everybody. And let's pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.